you. What an introduction. And I kind of feel like the pressure's on following Lynn because she's just told me all of the things I'm supposed to be doing so that you remember what I say when we walk out the door. So I'm hoping I've got a bit of a map for you today, or I'm giving you a model, or just giving you some tips to walk out and be able to understand the millennials in your workplace. Now, I feel like today, every time someone mentions the word millennials, someone kind of looks at me and does these ones. Like, that's you. It's like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And we've been talking about millennials for a long time. This isn't a new topic. We've had Michael McQueen, we've had Peter Sheehan already come out and talk about millennials. So why is it still something that's on everyone's lips? I've done my research today. Just sitting in this room alone, we've got 60 businesses represented. And in total, the reach of those businesses has close to 700,000 staff underneath them. So our sphere of influence is huge. Now, statistically speaking, within 4 years, half of those are going to be millennials. So we're talking about an influence of 350,000 young people. We're not just talking about a handful here, we're talking about a lot of millennials. And that's why it's important. That's why I wanted to get up today and share a little bit about, well, what makes us tick? What are we looking for when it comes to work? Because this is an important topic. Now, I need to preface and say, something that I'm not going to do today is stand up and say, we're the best, we're awesome, we're, the most driven, and we're the most easy to deal with people in your workplaces, because I've read so much, and even I lose a little bit of faith in millennials. I'm not going to tell you that we're easy, but what I am going to do is give you some honest insight and some honest data and some honest analysis about why do we engage with work and how do we engage with work, and how can you apply that in your workplaces to get the most out of your young people, to get some magic happening. We're going to start off with a profile. So when I use the word millennial, you know who I'm talking about, because we all know that that in itself is a bit of a debatable topic. According to Twitter, a millennial is any young person you don't like. It's pretty easy. And all the ones you do like, you can just call them young adults or something. We're talking about people who were born between the early 80s and the early thousands. So at our youngest, we're just entering the workforce. We're, first job at a cafe, at Macca's, pouring beers in the bar. And at our oldest, we're already managers. We're already kind of in that middle management type zone. We're tech natives. So I was 1 when the internet was open for public use, and I was 6 when Google was founded. So I can hand on heart say that I don't remember life without the internet, which is mind-boggling for some. Our Prime Minister was John Howard for the majority of our lives, so if we seem a bit apathetic about politics, you know why. Some of the big events that were on the news while we were growing up was 9/11, the Boxing Day tsunami, the Bali bombings and the global financial crisis. So we've actually grown up in quite a tumultuous time where there's a lot of fear-mongering happening within the media. And just to give you a bit of insight into who was big on the billboards while we were growing up, we've got Mariah Carey, Janet Jackson, Britney Spears, NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. Now, I wanted to make one more point in the profile piece here, and it was around our education. So, as you can see up on the slide, 79% of us hold a bachelor's degree, me included. And it's a really stark difference compared to the 69% of Gen Xers and the 62% of baby boomers. I hope that illustrates the competition of the job market currently. It doesn't set us apart to have a degree anymore, so we're having to search longer and harder to get into the job market. I was just telling a group before when we came in, when I was looking for a job, I found that if I took my date of birth off my resume, I would get a call back quicker than if I left it on. And I think that's really indicative of the way that sometimes millennials can kind of be shoeboxed by their age. So what's the big problem with millennials? Because for Darren and Ali to get my email and go, yeah, actually, that's a good topic, there's got to be some sort of challenge attached to millennials. And I'm sure that if I did a poll, I'm sure that I would have 300 different problems appear. But the one that I want to tackle today is actually around this idea of loyalty, because it's the one that I hear most often talked about, and it's the one that I see the most articles being written about, in all our business publications. Businesses are out there saying, we just can't get these young people to stay. They come and they're gone before we can even blink an eye. And the funny thing is, data actually shows that as well. 2 in 3 of us don't expect to be in our current jobs in 4 years' time. So there's obviously something that's happening on both ends for us to be looking for more from work. So today when I'm talking about these 3 Ps, which I promise I'll reveal all in due time, I want you to link them back to this idea of this is the problem that we're tackling is loyalty and how do we get young people to stay. So here is my answer for you. It's the 3 Ps. Purpose, people, and progression. And these 3 things, when I look at data, and I speak a lot from the Deloitte Millennial Survey, so you'll see some quotes come up on the screen. They're actually all anonymous in the survey, so they don't have anyone quoted, but they're from the Deloitte survey, which is publicly available. And this is what data is saying that millennials are looking for from work. So we're going to move into purpose. And I know that when I say purpose, some of you kind of roll your eyes and you think, oh, we can't all be working for charity. We can't all be feeding the starving children in Africa. But what we're actually looking for when we talk about purpose isn't just the personal sense of fulfillment. We're actually looking at your business purpose and saying, why do you exist? Do you know the authentic reason that your business interacts with society? And do you communicate that in a manner that we can connect with? Because the thing is, millennials are less impressed by the sheer scale of a business. We're actually not all that impressed with this business has a really big presence in the marketplace, or they've got a one particular product that's outselling everyone else. If you don't know the authentic reason, and if we can't find the authentic reason that your business and your product exists, we've got nothing to connect with. And that's the kind of purpose that we're talking about. And that's where it gets really important for you as businesses to be communicating your business values and putting them out there so that when we're looking for work, we can actually look for somewhere that we can connect with. It's not just work. We're not just coming to be paid so we can pay the bills. We're coming to the place we're going to spend the majority of our life. So we want something that we can really engage with and invest into. And when we're talking about business values, it's this list that we're talking about. So it's product, service and quality, employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, turnover, reputation and longevity. They're the 6 things that this survey has identified as being what we would consider a business value. Now, the thing that I find really interesting about this list is that if you look at what it touches on, it actually kind of touches all areas of the business. We're actually looking at your business as a whole. And the reason that is because there's this beautiful, romantic, altruistic belief that millennials have that business actually exists to have a positive impact in society, not just make profit. And I know that for some of you, you go, we've got to make money. How else are we going to keep going? How are we going to pay you millennials, if we're just focusing on making good impact in the world? But it's actually just about taking a look at why does our business exist? And at the heart of it, how are we giving back to society? How are we engaging with society? Because at the heart of every business, there's a human cause. The telcos are out there going, we're connecting people. And that's a beautiful sentiment. Anyone could connect with that. But make sure you're communicating that human sentiment in a manner that we can engage with. Profit is a benefit of a business that's doing good stuff, and it's no longer a luxury to be looking at and communicating the broader impact of your business. This is one of my favourite quotes from that survey. It's no longer a luxury to be looking at the way that your business interacts with society, because your future workforce is wanting to engage with that reason, not just with your product or your reputation. People. I also really love this point. It's kind of similar to the purpose point in that we're looking at your business and going, how are you going to look after me? Because the truth is, I'm going to spend more time here than I am in my own home. So am I going to enjoy being in this environment? Is it going to be nice for me? Is it going to be enjoyable? Millennials actually judge the performance of a business on what it does and how it treats its people. And that's not just reserved for your staff either. Because there's a really cool stat from that survey that actually says 56% of millennials have looked at businesses and identified businesses that they just will never work for because we don't align with that business or the way that it treats people. And I'm a clear example of that. I'll never work for Nike because of the sweatshop thing. And some of you kind of roll your eyes and go, well, how else are we supposed to get cool shoes? And I get that. That's your prerogative. But my prerogative is I couldn't work for a business that does that. And that's why we need to be looking at how is your business engaging with people, not just on the inside, but on the outside. I work for Cure Brain Cancer Foundation, and I love my job there. I'm the campaigns and partnerships executive and in marketing, and I just think it's such a cool place to work, sing its praises till the end of the days. But I've got a great story about working at Cure Brain Cancer. About 2 months ago, our CEO gave the marketing team a mandate. She said, okay, you've had 2 people resign. And we were a team of 5, so it was a relatively significant number. And she said, you've got all this money to play with now, you've got all this time, take a look at what you're doing and how you're structured and make sure that it works for you, make sure that it's great. And the great thing about this process was, rather than just the bosses coming down and saying, this is our new structure and this is how we're going to do it, they took it as a consulting process. They met with all of us and said, tell us about your current role, what are you doing? Are we underutilising you? Are there skills that you have that you're not currently using in your role? And together we landed on a structure that actually really used our people well, that looked at the skills that we had in the room and said, yeah, let's put her in a role that maybe doesn't make sense from a map point of view or a pathway point of view, but makes sense from a human point of view because they've got these great skills. And for me, that was a huge indicator that if I stick around in this place, I'm going to be looked after. And I think that was just such a beautiful representation of the shift that we're making in business to actually look at the people we've got rather than just the roles that we need filled. Add the human element to it with your staff. There's actually really other simple things that millennials are looking for. Good work-life balance, progression opportunities, flexibility, sense of meaning, and again, that impact on society. And these are the things that we're kind of trying to measure when we look at your business and whether we would like to work for you. Then there's other things too. Your physical space. What does your office space look like? How does it feel? There are so many TED Talks and blogs on, does your space, your physical space, provoke creativity from your staff? It's worth spending money on. And lastly, progression. This is my third P. And this is one of the ones that I think is quite funny when it's talked about, because often I hear the words entitled, narcissistic, self-absorbed, those kind of, is that a general consensus in the room? Yeah, we read those, we hear them thrown around when we're talking about millennials. But the thing is, when it comes to millennials, we get that we have to work hard to get to where we want to go. That's a massive misconception that we want to get to the top. There is nowhere in data that says we just think we can walk in and have the CEO's job. All of the data tells us that we know we need to work hard to get there. But what we want to know is that you, as our managers, are going to look at us and genuinely want us to progress. You're going to want to map out what our next steps are, help build the skills that we need for those next steps, and in the end be really stoked for us when we do get to where we want to go. I was having a conversation with my dad once, and for those of you who know my dad, this won't be surprising, but the conversation kind of got to a point where Dad said, "Oh, I'm just sick of you young people." I went, "Oh, hey Dad, let's talk about this. All right, what's going on?" And he said, "We've got this guy Mark in marketing. And he just upsets everyone in the boardroom. He's so full of himself. You know, he's just annoying everyone. He's upsetting everyone and he just wants a top job and it just really annoys me." And all I asked of my dad was, "Well, do you know that he wants the top job? Like, what does he want to do next? What's his ambition?" It's pretty quiet. And they're really simple questions that your managers should be able to answer about your millennials, really about any of your staff. All of these things aren't just for millennials when you look at it, but these are the things that millennials are driving in culture shifts in our workplace. So make sure that when you're talking to your millennials about progression, you're mapping out for them how you can help them get to where you want to go. This graph is from the survey, and I just want us to look at the one on the end, where people were saying there's a lot of support for those wishing to take on leadership roles. We're more likely to stay for more than 5 years. Just identifying and helping build leadership ambition is equal to your millennials staying longer. And all it is a conversation. It's a catch up every now and then. How are you tracking with those goals? Are you still wanting to go for that role next? Okay, is there any skills that you're lacking? What can we do now to help you? So how does this all relate back to ownership and progress? That's why we're here. When you look at those three things, really, it's clear that millennials are wanting to take ownership. We want to take ownership of our work. We don't just want to sit at a desk and look at spreadsheets all the time. We want to invest into something that's actually impacting society. And these three things and making changes in these areas that can help engage your millennials are going to help us do just that. So what's the thing I want you to remember when you turn around and walk out these doors? Know your authentic purpose, communicate it. Know your people, look after them, and map out the progression. Thank you.